Hello and welcome to EELE 101, Introduction to C Programming. Today we will look at some of the C basics that you need to know. Okay, and to get started we will be using Microsoft's Visual Studio to write our first few C programs. All the labs in the electrical and computer engineering department have Visual Studio on them. You will be able to get Visual Studio for your own laptops, but until you do that, you will need to use the computers in the ECE lab. So in Cobley Hall 625 is where you can go, and that's on the 6th floor on the southwest inside corner. Okay, at some point in the near future you should be getting an email, and the email that you will receive is highlighted here in the middle. Okay, and notice it will have, you'll be coming from MSU ECE department, and what you'll want to pay attention is DreamSpark. Okay, because that is the site that you will need to go here. Okay, and you will be given an account where you can go and download Microsoft's products. You can get Windows versions, the operating system, and for our course here will be Visual Studio. And you'll be able to log in. You'll have to register. You'll be given a password, and then you can download Visual Studio to put on your laptop. Now, the list that we've created is primarily based on electrical and computer engineering majors. So if you're from another department, we will need to add you to the list. So you will need to go and see Allison Banfield. Okay, she's our computer support person. She will add you to the list, and then you can get access to Visual Studio. Okay, so let's assume that you've got it installed, or you're using a computer in the computer lab. So open up Visual Studio, and you will need to create a new project. Okay, so the way you do that is you'll go over to this File tab, drop that drop-down menu. You will see the new here. Select that, and it will open this other window here, and so you'll then select Project. Okay, so you want to create a new project. Okay, so when you do that, you'll ask you what kind of project you want to create. So you'll want to create a Win32 project. Okay, we are going to develop what is essentially a Win32 console application. We will just be printing to the command line, so we're not going to do anything fancy with Windows, opening up Windows or anything like that. Okay, you'll need to basically give it a name, so you can just call it week 1. Put it in a location where you can find it, because you'll need your source code to demo it. Okay, and when you're done with that, then just click OK, and you will move on to the next screen. Okay, so then it's going to ask you about the Win32 application. We want to do a few things, so click the next button here. Okay, so what you'll want to do is select console application. Okay, so we want to select that. Okay, we don't want pre-compiler header, so you'll want to unselect that and then go and click finish. Okay, so what will pop up is some auto-generated files. We don't really care about them, so we're going to delete it. So notice over here, and this might be on the left side of your screen. Here in this particular case it came up on the right, but notice here's a thing called header files. Okay, it's listing these header files. Okay, get rid of them. The way you get rid of them is right click on them, select remove, and then it'll ask you if you want to delete it, so do that for both. Okay, also here for the source files, okay, we want to get rid of these as well, so again, right click on them, remove them, and delete it, and you can even get rid of this readme. Okay, so basically just clear out all the files that it auto-generated. Okay, so once you do that, you'll just see something like this that pretty much has nothing in it. Okay, all right, so now we're going to add what we want to this. Okay, so at the D2L site, under week 1, there will be a file called helloworld.c. Okay, so go ahead and just download that and save it on your computer in a location where you know where you saved it, because you're going to have to come back and get to it. Okay, and now in Visual Studio you see the source files here, so right click on the source files, you're going to select add, and now you're saying select an existing item. Okay, and then you will need to go and select the existing item, which is helloworld.c. So you have to browse to that location, select it, and then click add, and it's loaded in. Okay, so when that happens, you will just see the hello world here. It won't show up in the editor here yet. Okay, so what you'll need to do is double click on it, and then you'll see it loaded in as in this window. Okay, alright, so this is a Hello World program. For historic reasons, this is the first program you write. Okay, and so what we'll do is run this, and your assignment will be just to modify this in a little way. We just want to get you running a real simple program. We want to make sure that you can actually compile it and run it. Okay, so part of this exercise is to just make sure you can run the tool chain and get your program running. Okay, so let's look a little bit of what a C program looks like and how it's built. Okay, so this is the anatomy of a typical C program. Okay, it will at the beginning have some include statements, and we'll go in details what they are. There's always a main program, because this is the entry point into your program. So when the operating system runs your program, this is where it starts the program running. Okay, and the building blocks of C are functions, right? So pretty much C is made up of functions. Main is a function, and it's the first function called. Okay, and all functions are made up of statements. So notice under main there'll be a bunch of statements. Any functions you write will be made of statements. And there are 5 types of statements in C. Okay, there's a declaration. You're going to declare a variable and what kind of variable it is. There's assignments. You're going to assign the variable to be 5, for example. There are functions. That's what the building blocks of C are. And there are control. You will control the flow of operations by statements. All right, and we'll just ignore the null at this point. Now, an important point here is the semicolon. Okay, notice all statements end with the semicolon. Okay, all right. This tells the compiler that that's the end of a statement. Okay, how it's spaced, it doesn't matter in C. You're telling the compiler, I'm ending a statement. It's kind of like a period at the end of the sentence. Okay. This is a common mistake when you begin programming in C, is to leave off the semicolon at the end of a statement. Okay, so here's our program. So let's look at it a little bit in detail. Okay, so notice it starts with a couple of include statements. Okay, this is telling the compiler where to find certain things. Okay, we are going to be using the function printf, and we have to tell the compiler where it can find printf, and we're going to tell it by including studio.h, standard IO. Okay, so this is telling the compiler to know about printf. Okay, and that would be simple, except for Visual Studio we are adding another program called getCharacter, and we'll tell you the reason why that is in the minute. Briefly, if it opens a command window, prints it out, Visual Studio or Windows will immediately close that, and you won't even be able to see what got printed. So we need to essentially wait until you hit another key. Okay. All right. So if we're using functions that are found in standard libraries, we need to include the appropriate header information. Okay. Okay. So here is main. It's the first function called. So this is the entry point into our program. Notice we have comments here. Okay, there are two ways of doing comments. Strictly speaking, a slash, star, whatever you've written, and then star slash is the old way of doing comments. With the advent of C++, you can do a slash slash, and everything to the end of the line is now a comment, so you don't have to worry about closing it. Sometimes that's more convenient if you just want to do a couple lines of comments. If somebody's a strict C person, they will tell you to do it this way, but most compilers will understand this nowadays. Okay, and so putting comments in your code is a very good thing, because if you write code and somebody else is going to modify it or read it, it's a good idea to tell them what's happening with the code. Or if you've written it and then come back a year later and trying to figure out what you did, comments are very, very helpful. Okay, statements. Okay, in this case, a statement is that single function printf. Notice again, it ends with a semicolon. We end it with a semicolon here. So everything is ending with a semicolon. Okay. Now, one other thing you should notice is these curly braces. Okay, so we have one here, an opening curly brace, we have a closing curly brace, so they come in pairs. Okay, so this is a grouping operation that tells you that all these statements here belong together, and in fact they belong together and they belong to the main function. So this is telling you what inside the function is grouped together or will run when that function runs. Okay. Okay, so let's get back to these include statements. What you should know is C comes with several standard libraries. Okay, so standard libraries are essentially functions that have already been written for you, and they're grouped together in a logical manner. Okay, and so we're using one of them, printf. An accomplished C programmer will know what the libraries are and know what functions are in the library, because why roll your own wheel if you can just use something that's already been built for you? Okay, so your job starting out is to learn some of these functions, and the first one is printf. Okay, notice here in the standard IO library there's a bunch of them listed here. Okay, a good place to look at these functions as in a reference manner is at cplus.com. Okay, and they have a pretty good organization in terms of standard C library references. Okay, so you can go there, you can click on printf, and it will actually then describe, you know, all this information here about printf. It even gives you some example code how to use it. Okay, and again, here's the place where you can actually find more information about printf. Now, one thing you should know about printf is it's printf, and that means print formatted. So there's a bunch of control symbols in here that will tell the function how to print certain data types. Okay, for instance, here we can print characters, or we can print decimals, okay, or long decimals. Okay, notice the /n here. That basically means the next line, you know, print starting on the next line. Okay, so essentially a new line command. All right, so %d is a common one. %s print a string, and when you deal with numbers, okay, %f is a common one, and how many digits before and after the decimal point or the total width of the field you can specify there. Okay, so here we're saying print 2 after the decimal point, and we see it showing up down here. Okay, so understanding some of the common printf formatting is something you'll want to look in as well. Okay, so for your first assignment is to run this example and modify it. So put a printf statement right under here, and what you want to have it printed out will be hello world. My name is, okay, don't put Ross Snyder here because that's me, so put your name. Okay, all right, so hello world.c can be found on the D2L site, so you can just download it, bring it into Visual Studio like we described earlier, and you have to modify it. Okay, and to get credit for this, you'll need to come to the recitation section and have the instructor verification sheet signed off, because what you will do is demonstrate that you can run the program correctly. Okay, now you should also make a habit of backing up your work on a flash drive, because sometimes things happen, hard drives fails. If you put it on a lab computer, something may have happened, somebody else might have deleted it. So always back up your work to a known location, and a flash drive is a good idea to do that as well. Students also have a Z drive, so it doesn't hurt to back it up in more than one place. Okay, so once you've got the code written, okay, what you'll want to do now is compile the code. So you'll do this by selecting build solution, or just simply pressing the F7 key, and that will compile the code. Now, sometimes you'll forget to put a semicolon at the end, just like I did here as an example. Okay, if you run the compiler, or try to compile this code by doing, you know, the build process, here's an example where it's saying there's an error. Okay, and it'll actually tell you there's a semicolon missing, you know, and it will roughly tell you which line is causing the problem. And so ultimately it says build failed, and it failed, right? So that pretty much tells you you've got to go fix the problem and recompile it. Okay, so now assuming that you've compiled it with no errors, you'll want to run it now. So we can do it by saying debug, start debugging. Okay, because typically when you're initially running code, you'll want to run it in debug mode, so if it crashes, the compiler has put in extra information into your code, and it can track down where it crashed, you know, what's going on. Okay. All right. So when you do that, you will see this window pop up. Okay. And here you'll see the output. Hello world, my name is Ross Snyder. Okay. Now, if you didn't put this get char down here, this window would print it. It would be gone in a flash. You wouldn't be able to read this at all. So in a sense, what's happening is we're waiting for a key to be pressed. Okay, and when that key is pressed, this actually finishes the program. So this is just a way to keep this window open until you actually press any key. All right, so that's all you have to do for assignment 1. There are a number of resources for C programming. Okay, there's several places on the web. But again, the best way to learn how to program is to actually start programming, because it really doesn't mean anything until you actually do it yourself. Okay, so good luck on your programming assignment.